or you remember when we were talking about topics we wanted to discuss, one was Catholicism and other Christian religions and how maybe we can explain to family members who are looking at some of the other Christian religions what might be differences. So a little bit about Mike's background. He was born here in South Buffalo, went to St. Martin of Tours Parish. He grew up in Marilla at the Annunciation Parish there. He graduated from Iroquois High School. That is from St. Bonaventure. He got a bachelor's in history and a minor in theology. And then he got his master's in pastoral studies from the Catholic Theological Union in Chicago. He's currently working as a teacher at St. Francis High School. Maybe some of you have relatives who go there. They might know him. And as far as his work life, he's got a few things to say himself about his work life. So let's just welcome Mike.
Great, thanks for having me. Thanks, Vince, for reaching out. So I hope the speaker wasn't working. Hopefully my teacher voice is loud enough for most of you. If not, feel free to move forward. I'm used to teaching 16, 15, and 14-year-olds, so this is a nice change of pace. So glad to be here with you guys today. So just a little bit more about kind of who it is who's talking right in front of you. Why is he here at your parish on this beautiful Saturday morning? A little bit about me. That's my confirmation in 2010, Annunciation, lifelong Catholic, all that good jazz. Went to St. Bonaventure after high school, loved it there, Franciscan friars there, really good experience for myself. History major, wanted to be a teacher, but always thinking about, well, how is my faith kind of deal with this? We're talking about people from different Christian denominations. Maybe you have friends or family who maybe are leaving the faith for reason X, Y, or Z. And I think for myself and my own life journey, the big reason why I kind of went full steam ahead with kind of understanding my Catholicism is because my two best friends growing up were atheists. So, we're talking about, maybe I have a friend who does this or who doesn't go to church. I think, at least in my personal experience, kind of understanding and owning my religion, my faith that my parents gave me, was enforced by some good friends who didn't have it. So there's goodness and good things come from engaging with people from different backgrounds, different faith experience other than our own. If I only was surrounded by only Catholics, I don't think I would be standing up here in front of you guys right now. So just something to keep in mind. And this was on our trip to Rome and Assisi when I was in high school. That's where that picture's from. So a little bit more about kind of my professional background. So after college at St. Bonaventure, I did a volunteer year with the Franciscan friars, working for free at a parochial school in Camden, New Jersey. Very poor, mainly Hispanic and African American students there. It was a great experience for sure. A different financial reality than this parish for much of suburban Buffalo. After that, I worked in college campus ministry, running retreats and volunteer programs at a Jesuit college in Philadelphia, St. Joe's. After that, I thought, a lot of just sermon and prayer, talking to a lot of priest friends who I know. I decided to enter the Franciscan order, the Order of Friars Minor, the Brown Friars at St. Bonaventure and other parishes and schools throughout the United States. So I spent 3.5 years in formation with the Franciscans with the goal of becoming a priest, staying a friar, all that good jazz. Some really, really positive years there. I lived in Washington, D.C., Santa Barbara, California, Chicago, Illinois. Did a whole bunch of different things. Advocated for Franciscan values on Capitol Hill with Congress people. Worked in homeless shelters, worked in food pantries, taught at huge Catholic high schools in Chicago. Lived with people from different backgrounds. Being from suburban Buffalo, we're used to being around people that look like us. But I was around, Hispanic immigrants and Asian immigrants and people who spoke different languages. So it really opened my world to life beyond suburban Buffalo. So I bring all that to the table as we talk here. So, sometimes people ask me, why did you leave religious life? Why did you decide you didn't want to be a priest? So, sometimes God calls you to things, but maybe not forever. I realized I wasn't in love with preaching With Franciscan life, as opposed to diocesan priesthood, you take a itinerant path where you're living in this city and then you're living far away in this city. So I was living in faraway places away from my family and friends, and that was a big factor in me deciding not to renew my vows. But it was a very formative experience for me that I am more than grateful for. And now the Franciscans are my bosses because I work at St. Francis High School now. So it's kind of coming full circle. So the Franciscan lens, the Franciscan theology of St. Francis of Assisi and St. Bonaventure, the person, it's kind of infused in my courses that I teach at St. Francis High School and kind of what you'll see here today. So I bring all that to the table with you, and as an educator now teaching high schoolers. So we're talking about people from different religious denominations, kind of what makes it different than Catholicism, how do we understand that? And this is what I teach my students at St. Francis, both my freshmen and my juniors. After 9/11, 20 plus years ago, there was a lot of anger, some would even say fear of the Muslim faith. Islamophobia was a term thrown around a lot for good reason, considering what had happened. But Franciscan scholars, a lot of the friars of St. Bonaventure who taught me when I was an undergrad, they were looking at the life of Francis, dissecting kind of year by year, what is he doing in the world from his birth in 1182 until his death in 1226. And what was kind of like an overlooked story, kind of I think has a lot of relevance here. In 1219, Europe and the Islamic world were in the midst of the Third Crusade, right? The Christian leaders want to take over the Holy Land and claim it for the papacy. Francis of Assisi, he's establishing his order around now. He doesn't get approval for another couple of years. But in 1219, Francis and a couple other of his friars travel to Egypt, to a city called Damietta. And he engages in dialogue with the Muslim Sultan, the Sultan Malik al-Kamil, a civic and religious leader at the time. Now this is significant. Francis, Christian of course, and the Sultan, devout Muslim. Most Muslims and Christians during this time period were not breaking bread and talking with each other and dialoguing. They were killing each other on the battlefield. But they had a dialogue, a discussion. Francis entered the Sultan's camp, and they engaged in peaceful discussions. They weren't converting each other. They weren't saying, you're right, you're wrong, you're a heretic, you're going to hell. But they found peace. They found encounter with one another. And I think that's just a good framework for us as we discuss different Christian denominations. This is a painting by a Franciscan friar, Robert Lenz, depicting that meeting between Francis and the Sultan. So as we engage with people from different faiths, I think that's an important framework to get us started with. Okay, so kind of heavy on the text here, right? I have a theology degree and I have a history degree. So a lot of what I kind of talk about with the theology is formed through the historical context in which it comes from. So I'm deeply fascinated by the Second Vatican Council. I wasn't around for it. Maybe some of you guys remember it as children, right? You go to Mass one day and then the priest isn't at your back. He's facing towards you. The Mass is in English, not in Latin. Major change, major shift in the church between 62 and 65. Maybe you remember from your childhood, prior to the Second Vatican Council, the church did teach that there was no salvation outside of the church, outside of Catholicism. So the Second Vatican Council, the church fathers during that time period, the theologians, this ecumenical council, really turned a 180 on that in a lot of ways. Okay, so the document Nostra Aetate affirms the goodness of other faiths. Okay, so it affirms that there's goodness and truth in other religions as well, that enlightens others too. Now, some people really bucked against this, saying, well, if there's goodness in Lutheranism, and there's goodness in Judaism, there's goodness in Islam, what's the point about being Catholic? What does that mean for us? So that's something that I think maybe some of us as Catholics have had to wrestle with for 60 years now. But I think it's a central teaching of the council that there's goodness and there's truth found in other faiths. We are not the only persons that have all the truth, all the goodness in God. 2015, Francis, the Pope, comes to the United States. Maybe you remember it. It was my senior year at St. Bonaventure, and I traveled with my family to Philadelphia. Right before he had his Mass on Ben Franklin Parkway, he goes to St. Joseph's University, which later became my employer. My office is right up there in the brick building. And this statue, which you can kind of see from the side, sits right in front of the chapel. It's called Synagoga et Ecclesia. Who's got good Latin? Everybody know their Latin? Synagogue, okay, ecclesia, Greek for church. Okay, so it shows the connection between our Jewish brothers and our Christian brothers as well. And Francis the Pope, he had a busy schedule in Philadelphia, New York, and Washington, D.C., but he took the time on that Sunday morning before he had Mass to travel to St. Joseph's and to bless the statue that represents the goodness of the connection between our Jewish brothers and sisters and us as well. Okay? Francis is not the only pope that's kind of shown dialogue and respect and encounter between people of other faiths, right? Our own namesake of this parish here, St. John Paul II. Maybe you remember this from 1986, the World Day of Prayer for Peace. Okay? Gathering with all different religious leaders throughout the world, including the Archbishop of Canterbury, from the Anglican Church in England, the Dalai Lama. Okay? And it was significant because this location was in front of the Portiuncula in Assisi, Italy. Right? So we have this theme of St. Francis of Assisi, once more, connecting and dialoguing with people from different backgrounds, contexts, lived experiences, and faiths. Some people didn't like this. Some people thought John Paul II was not in the right by mixing with people of other faiths and other denominations. But that's the reality that happened at that time. So some examples of pontiffs engaging in dialogue with people of other faiths. But where does that leave us as we were talking with people of different Christian denominations, right? So I was thinking before we do that, we kind of should take stock of what's happening in our world and in our diocese too, on the local context, right? Many of us maybe have, lamentations. We're concerned about parish closures and the realities surrounding that. It's very timely that I came here today. I mean, they had the press conference, Wednesday night about the parish closures happening in the diocese. So it's, I'm aware of this. It is the reality that we live in today. It's happening for a variety of reasons. This parish is still open, it's safe, but maybe your friends or your neighbor's parish is not. So maybe we can delve into maybe why that's happening, okay? Because we're talking about maybe why our friends and families kind of drift away and go to different churches or not church at all. So I don't want to minimize kind of the fear and the lament that maybe we're losing something here. So I want to just acknowledge that because it is our lived reality. Okay, so as of 2022, this is from the Public Religion Research Institute, right? Yeah, if you can't see, maybe now's a good time to move up closer. The American religious landscape in 2022, only 2 years old, right? So what is now the largest group are those who are unaffiliated, those who are, quote unquote, the nuns, N-O-N-E-S, who don't have a religious affiliation. That has grown substantially over the past few decades. There's several reasons why we'll delve into later. The next one, okay, the blue are white Christians. Okay, so they break it down by race as well. So about 13% are evangelical Protestants. We're going to delve into what that term means in the second half of this. White mainline Protestants. Those are your Episcopalians, your Lutherans, your Methodists, your Presbyterians. We'll delve into their theologies too in a little bit. White Catholics, okay, they make up about 12%, 13% right now, depending on the chart. Latter-day Saints or Mormon brothers and sisters, Orthodox, a lot smaller than that. Then in the green you have people of color, Black Protestants, Hispanic Protestants, Hispanic Catholics, right? 50 years ago, That was a sliver. Right now it's about 9%. So if you combine the white Catholic population and Hispanic and Black Catholic population, we're sitting at about 21%, 22% of Americans who are Catholics. Okay, that has changed a lot. Come on. Okay, the disaffiliation, right? We have the 18 to 29-year-old demographic, 22, 16, 06, 96, 86. It's grown. Some would say it's been stabilizing since 16, but other charts say otherwise. But no matter what way you slice it, disaffiliation is a part of our lived reality today, right? And it's becoming more and more prominent with the younger generation as opposed to the elder. But it is growing. And there's a lot of reasons why. And again, if you guys have any questions, please raise your hand. Stop me because I babble on sometimes too much. Yeah.
You can move up.
Sure. Right, so we're looking at religious switching in the United States from the religion of their birth, the religion of their childhood, and the growth and the decline from that. This is 2023. Again, this is the Public Religion Research Institute. These are their statistics. So we just look at our Catholic, white Catholic, which is what we are in this room. Right, childhood affiliation, 17%. Not much entering, 6% net loss from that as well. Okay, so it's sitting around that as well. So if you look at the other charts here, if you can see, right, white Catholics do have the largest decline from childhood to adult affiliation, followed by mainline Protestants, which we're going to talk about, and then the evangelicals, they're sitting pretty even here, which we're going to delve into kind of why that is. But there's major losses with us, white Catholics, and then the mainlines as well, Hispanic Catholics as well too, okay? Maybe this is surprising, maybe it's not. Again, if you can't see, I'd be more than happy to share with you my PowerPoint, email it to you after this. Yeah?
Michael, as a teacher, what do you tell these kids in school why this is going on?
Yeah, that's my next chart right there. So like with my juniors, we get to delve into like some of the reasons why specifically. I think I'll go to that right now actually.
Oh, okay.
Right. Again, this is the survey that I use. The blue is 2016.
I really can't read that fast.
Yeah, if you want to move up, you can. I'll read it off to you. The green is 2023.
Excuse me. So Mike shared the presentation with me, so we can share it with you guys as well. I mean, if you don't mind, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'll be able to send you the complete presentation if you want to look at a lot of the numbers more deeply. But
Yeah.
Feel free to move up.
yeah.
Yeah, don't bite. So number one reason, it's a pretty vague one. You stopped believing in the religion's teachings. Okay, that could mean
Why is that though?
well, that could mean a whole lot of things. The statistics are kind of vague on that. Why people don't believe that anymore, this chart doesn't really say. But I think these other ones kind of get into more of the weeds here. These other ones are a little bit more specific, so I want to kind of point to those as well. So we do see a growth here, right? 2016, 2023. Now this is a reality that we live in now. I can speak as a younger Catholic. Second biggest reason why people do leave is the religion's negative religious teachings about or treatment of gay and lesbian people. It's a massive wedge issue, gentlemen, on how perceived notions or real notions about how religious denominations are dealing with the reality of how do we interact with people who are not straight. So that's sexuality. It's a massive wedge issue. It is today. It was 50 years ago, 100 years ago, to the time of St. Paul and the first apostles. Okay. Your family was never that religious growing up. There's a growth in that as well. The fourth one, it was bad for your mental health. Okay, that wasn't an option for the 2016 poll, but it is now.
Excuse me, would you say that? It's bad for your mental health being religious?
That's what the people who took that poll said.
Who took that poll?
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't make sense.
I agree with you. I say communally believing in something together, that's a positive thing for your entire well-being. But my perceptions would say that they would say it's bad for your mental health, maybe because they didn't feel like they were welcome. They felt that they were pushed away. So that's something to keep in mind as well. There's a large jump between 16 and 23 in clergy sex abuse scandals. Okay, I'm going to talk about how that is a reality, but it's not just a Catholic reality. It's a societal reality too. But that is a massive jump. And then the churches or congregation became too focused in politics. So those are some of the major reasons why people leave. I think another one would just be, I don't know, doesn't seem relevant anymore. I want to sleep in. I got travel soccer on Sunday mornings.
What was the number one again?
It's vague. You stop believing in the teachings.
That's number one. They
Yes.
stop believing.
Yes. Yeah. Specifically, what teachings, the graph doesn't say. My
I don't
perception.
think they stop believing. I think they just don't even care.
Well, yeah,
They don't
apathy.
even think about whether they believe or not.
Right. Apathy is a massive thing too.
I believe our God now is football and entertainment. What do we do on Sundays? NFL, right? Every Sunday, 3 games a day.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. I mean, that's a massive competitor that's hard to compete with. So, yeah, I think I'm in agreement with you completely. So, it's our world. Okay, I'll go for another 5 minutes or so before we break. You think?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so that's the reality that we live in. I think we probably knew that. Maybe we didn't know the number specifically. But where do we go from here? Does God still work through the Lutheran Church? Does God still work through our Presbyterian and Baptist, Pentecostal, or mega church brothers and sisters? Right? The Second Vatican Council that we talked about earlier, the Church Fathers, and many theologians throughout the Church's history. I have a very obvious bend towards the Franciscan worldview of seeing God in all of creation, seeing the goodness of God in all things. Would say, yes, there is goodness in these other faiths. There is goodness in these other traditions. It's not saying that it doesn't matter if you're Catholic or not. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm not saying that Baptists go to hell. I'm not saying that Episcopalians go to hell or anything like that. There's goodness in gathering together to believe in something bigger than yourself, to point yourself towards God. So why stay Catholic? There's no simple answer to that one, gentlemen. If there was a simple answer, I would have sold it and retired young. But we're going to kind of delve into the distinctions between this. Okay?
Michael, that last thing about why stay Catholic, our Christian faith hasn't changed in over 2,000 years. That's the reality. That's the silver bullet. There's no compromising in who created us, why we're here, what we're supposed to be doing. That's what makes us Christians and Catholic people. We believe in certain truths, and these truths have not changed since the time of Christ. So I beg to differ with that. If I was a silver bullet to this situation, those other religions can't say that about their belief.
Right.
There's no foundation for those other religions other than what they believe they should be believing in. As far as the Catholic religion, we have our Lord and Savior who is hanging on that cross, and nothing's changed with the religious truths that have been proclaimed through him for over 2,000 years.
Yeah.
That's what makes us Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes our faith different than the Lutherans and the Presbyterians and the Baptists and Pentecostals and anybody who wants to get on a soapbox and proclaim that this is the way you should live and be a nice person. That's a bunch of hooey. I mean, there's nothing to support those religions. Our Catholic religion is based on that right there. And
Other comments? Yes.
Our Catholic catechism teaches if you believe in Christ, all these other religions, you still go to heaven. That's in the catechism. From Vatican II, John Paul's catechism.
Yeah.
I
Other.
believe the Eucharist, I believe a lot of the Protestants, we believe, well, not much, a lot of people don't anymore, that it's the body and blood of Christ. There's Eucharistic miracles where the blood comes from the host. I think, I know a person who's a Lutheran, And they say it turns into body and blood when they put it in their mouth, which I don't understand that, but
Yeah.
maybe that's his own interpretation.
Yeah, we're going to delve into those distinctions probably after the break, surrounding those, the theologies of the Eucharist, the theologies of liturgy, the theologies of all of that. Okay? Maybe now's a good time for break, I'm thinking. So,
Okay.
we'll take 5, we'll,
Just 5 minutes to
bathroom.
stretch, discuss, corner light somewhere.
Well, Bill, hey. I didn't know this